Number two. Oh, yes, sir.
Hi. My question has to do with outsourcing.
Tell us who you are.
My name's John.
Yeah, we talked a number of times, but
Yes.
go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to talk about what I usually talk about, which is the restaffing in Denver,
Right.
which is my case has been in arbitration for over 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just come to the terms with the fact that the answer is from the company is that we don't have to answer. But that's not what I'm here to talk about.
The answer is we need to get to a joint contract. Go
Well,
ahead.
sure. Whenever you outsource, you in essence are taking your hands off the operation and you're putting it in the hands of somebody who, it's been my experience, really is not paid enough to care. And I don't think that this airline deserves that kind of employee or that kind of outsourcing. So I guess the question I have to you, this kind of it's a personal question.
Sure.
If your wife tonight comes to you and says, "Hey, Doug, you're a good man, you're a good husband, but I got this guy Fred over here, and Fred can do everything you can do better, more efficiently." Just because she's got that guy, should she outsource you? I mean, and then I guess the answer I'm looking for, is I'd like to see what you would say, your response as an emotion. How would you feel?
I'd be crushed because I love my wife and she wouldn't say that to me. But look, I get
so you could understand how an employee would feel crushed to know that they have a company who is offering them a contract proposals. There's a lot of enhancements in it. It's a good contract, but there's just too much outsourcing that's involved in it, and it's not right.
Yeah, okay,
this is American Airlines, and we deserve to have American Airlines people working our flights. And as far as outsourcing aircraft maintenance to another country that doesn't have FAA oversight or very little FAA oversight, to me, that's scary.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for raising that.
Yeah.
And let me address it without using your analogy. So look, here's how I think, and I think we all think about when we have work done for our airline by people that aren't direct employees of our airline. That happens first at, I think, every single airline in the world, certainly at the other large network carriers like ours, for good reason, and we do less of it than the others do. So I'll start with that. But again, that doesn't come to the heart of your question. Why does anybody do it? Where it makes sense, in general, is operations where you don't have enough critical mass of work as an individual carrier to justify having your own dedicated team. And there are other airlines in similar situations. So one dedicated team can work, therefore, for several airlines. So it makes no sense to outsource ramp work at DFW because we need to do all that, and we can employ a lot of people doing that. And that's why these contracts have, station size, operations levels at which, when we're at or above a certain level of flights, that indeed we can use non-contract, non-U.S., non-American airlines, the scope clause says. But that's why, because there's some level, through negotiations, we try and figure out what that level is. But there is some level at which, it's clearly, if we have one flight a day, no one would suggest, I don't think anybody, that we should go employ, people working 8-hour shifts. I'd take it to the absurd. And then where we end up, though, is somewhere, where do you cut that? Where do you draw that line? So that's how we think it works, in general. As long as the operation needs full-time group of people and they're fully employed and work all the time, it makes all sense for that to be done by us, not by someone else, as a general statement. My wife needs me full-time. So there's where the analogy falls apart. So anyway, but here's the, she probably doesn't need me full-time, but let's pretend she does. So anyway, So that's in concept where it is. And indeed, in the contract proposal we put forward, so much has been said about outsourcing, which is absolutely positively not in the proposal and not our intent. I'm not trying to get in this big debate. I'm just telling you absolutely positively what we believe is in the proposal. There is indeed a couple of job functions that we look to have done outside of the scope of that contract. Entirely consistent with what I just said, and entirely consistent with what other airlines do. Not a whole lot, and indeed, when doing those, we have also put in the contract now for those people that are currently doing those jobs, their jobs are protected in station, in function. So while we're doing it, while we want to do this and we think it makes sense for the company, we're doing it in the most humane possible way anyone has ever done. So that's the way the contract reads. Those functions include things like facilities maintenance by AMT mechanics, right? I'm sorry, what? Facilities maintenance, what did I say? Okay, yeah, facilities maintenance, like maintenance of facilities, not aircraft, not ground equipment. Facilities maintenance being done by by the people covered by that contract, which are not AMT, but mechanics on that pay scale, covered by that contract. Other airlines don't do that because facilities maintenance work tends to be different work. And by the way, facilities maintenance is one of these things that is done in all sorts of different places. It can be done by an outside vendor for a bunch of airlines better than we can do it ourselves. So things like that, things like de-icing in stations where we don't need de-icing all the time. So places like Dallas, where we don't need de-icing often, but when we do, one group can do it for other airlines. So that's the concept. And again, I know it's a source of debate still at this point, but that's what's in there, and nothing more than those. What's also in there is a provision that we need that would allow American Airlines to continue doing what we're doing today, which is we're a global airline, and we need to do line maintenance outside the United States sometimes, because that's where the airplanes are. So that's not, well, I guess it could be called maintenance outside the United States. That's line maintenance done in places like Brazil by people that work for American Airlines under the American Airlines FAA program. They just aren't members of the union because they're international employees. They're not U.S. employees. That's what we're looking to do. We're not looking to take any of the base maintenance and move it from places where it is today to places outside the United States or anything close to that. And indeed, the contract wouldn't allow us to do that, particularly with this protection now that you're going to be in position as an individual. So every base we have, we're going to need because we're going to have people in those bases. So at any rate, that's what's in the contract. We're not looking to do what people are suggesting we're looking to do. I'm not saying that as though people are intentionally misleading, but you can look at provisions like percentage of work that can be done outside the United States, which again is entirely the number we believe we need to be able to do line maintenance outside the United States with our team members, not meant to go take big work and move it outside the United States. Okay, is that all okay? Is that right? All right. Caroline, we are losing people.